From blockbuster films like Mighty Morphin Power Rangers to directing seismic episodes of The X-Files, 24, Hawaii Five-0, and Magnum P.I., Bryan Spicer turns cinematic ambition into television legend. On this episode of The Significance, Spicer reveals the vision and discipline that helped him shape modern storytelling. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. The Significance with Tyler and Signy starts now.
Today on The Significance, we're joined by a visionary storyteller whose work has helped define the look and feel of modern television. Bryan Spicer is a celebrated director and producer whose career spans everything from 24 and Heroes to NCIS, Hawaii Five-0, and Magnum P.I. Known for his steady hand behind the camera and his gift for bringing action, heart, and character to life, Spicer has been a driving force behind some of the most enduring franchises in television history. Bryan, welcome to The Significance.
Well, Tyler and Signy, thanks for having me.
So, jumping right in, was there a moment or spark early in your life that you think set you on the path toward the entertainment industry?
In high school, I kind of wanted to be a musician. I wanted to be a drummer. And my father, who has his own story of coming to Hollywood with $100 in his pocket, hitchhiking, trying to become something, and actually made it on his first audition, sort of inspired me to want to get in the film business later in life. He came to me one day while I was dirty underneath a car. I was a mechanic at the time. I was fixing cars when I was in high school. And I remember the moment, if you're looking for that moment, I'm under a car, I'm all dirty, and I see feet walking up towards me. I'm on one of those rollers on my back underneath the car. And I see feet walking towards me. It's my dad. And I come sliding out, looking up at him. And I remember it distinctly because I was looking up at him and he was backlit by the sun and there was light shining in my eyes. And he said, "Well, you ready to try something different?" And, he looked at me like how dirty I was. Anyways, he had gotten back in the film business after being out of it for years and was location manager. And I got a job driving a truck full of props to Arizona for after school special, and just kind of learned how to do the business just by starting off that way as a production assistant, basically.
Wow.
That's
awesome.
Amazing. That's a great story. So you sort of answered the question, my question that I was going to pose to you before filmmaking came into the picture. As a child, what did you want to be when you grew up? But I guess you sort of answered that, or is there more to that story?
Well, I think a lot of us as children, we don't know what we want to be. I think I was fortunate, had good parents, middle class. We weren't very wealthy, but my father and my mother, let me do a bunch of different things. They put me into all the different sports, tennis, golf, baseball, football, and then piano lessons and tennis. They kind of got me involved in a lot of different things. And I really gravitated towards the music. So I think it's good with kids if you get, show them a lot of different things and see
exactly.
I was more artistic because my father was very artistic, so I think I kind of headed in that world, anyways. Yeah.
Yeah, very interesting. And so, as you got your feet wet, so to say, what was your first actual directing job?
Well, I got a job at a company called Stephen Cannell Productions, and they were doing shows like The A-Team, Riptide, Hardcastle, right? Yeah, all those shows back then. And there was a department. I was a production assistant for a while, so I learned about the industry kind of from the ground, and wasn't really sure what I wanted to do yet. But there was a job available over there to work in this a department called the insert department, where they were shooting inserts to put in the shows. So it was actually the best film school I could ever get into. I got the job, and I found myself sitting in an editing room, a chem room, what they called them back there, where the film went on spools, and they'd watch these TV shows, and the producers would say, "Hey, we need this. We need to fix this. We need a shot here. We need this there." And I was the guy that would run out and go shoot those shots. So it was a great film school. You learn how editing works, how film works, how things cut together, and working closely with producers and massaging stories. And And I think in the beginning there, I was telling stories with just pictures. I wouldn't get actors. I'd have to tell a story with a picture. So I think that was a really good film school, a good tool to learn.
Yeah, on-hands experience, absolutely. So in 1997, you directed McHale's Navy and then Richer and Poor, excuse me. What was it like working with Ernest Borgnine? I mean, he was kind of iconic and larger than life.
He was great. We flew him down to Mexico. We were filming in Mexico. I think we had him for maybe a day or two on location, and he was great. He had a lot of energy. I was really surprised, and he was fun, funny, very active, very nice man. It was a pleasure working with him.
That's what I've heard. I've heard he's really wonderful. He was a very wonderful human being.
Yeah.
And so many of your TV credits include The X-Files. Is that where, well, first of all, let's back up about where you two originally met. Was it The X-Files that?
He directed an episode of The X-Files. I was fortunate enough to be able to work with Bryan directing me, which was really wonderful. Just an incredible group of people. But Bryan was terrific.
What do you remember about the first time you met Bryan?
I remember thinking he was very quiet, very intense, very methodical, very kind to everyone on the set, particularly the actors. He just had a very strong, quiet presence that I just thought was lovely. I've always been a fan of Bryan's work.
That's amazing. Obviously, you've shared over the years how much you respect his talent. So the X-Files 24, Castle, Fringe, Hawaii Five-0, Magnum P.I. In television, unlike film, it's a producer's medium rather than a director's medium. So which one of those do you feel that stylistically you were able to leave your imprint on more than the others?
I think it's the directing part. One of my favorite shows early on that I got hired to do was called Parker Lewis Can't Lose. And it was a series in the late 80s, early 90s. And it was a little bit like Malcolm in the Middle meets Ferris Bueller, And they had a pilot and they didn't like it. And they wanted it to be a little bit more camera movements and they wanted the camera to be a character. So I got hired and I did exactly what they wanted. And the show turned out very funny. It was like every episode was a blessing. The writing was brilliant. They allowed me to do anything I wanted to do with the camera. And I did that for a couple of years, and it was one of the first things I got to do. So I felt I was lucky in getting a job that I could be creative in television, where a lot of television, they don't want you to be too creative. They want you to kind of follow their cookie cutter pattern in their show. This was a show that didn't have a pattern yet. They wanted something new and fresh. So I got very fortunate to work on that show. And here's an interesting story. So the second season, I did every other episode of the first season. It was a 5-day show. It was a very hectic schedule. And the second season, I did this episode that was more about the parents, the Parker Lewis parents. The parents were barely ever in the episodes. Every once in a while, we'd see the mom or the dad. But this was a parent-heavy episode. And it had a lot of really fun, cool things about it. And I finished filming it, and I handed it to the Mary Ellen Trainor, who was playing the mother of Parker Lewis. And I said, "Here, I want you to see this. I think you did a really great job, and it has a lot of your stuff in it." She goes, "Great. I'm going to show this to my husband tonight." I didn't think anything about it. Didn't even know who her husband was until a week later, when I get a phone call from Steven Spielberg, who says that it was a Mary Ellen Trainor gave it to her husband.
Oh my goodness!
Her husband was Bob Zemeckis. She never told anybody. Nobody ever told me. And then, apparently Bob had seen it, gave it to Steven, and it just, all of a sudden I was getting called into to Spielberg's office to meet him, and my life changed immediately. But yeah, it's just from one show. You never know.
And then you worked with Steven on Terra Nova, correct?
Yeah, I worked with Steven for a while. We prepped a movie that never got made, unfortunately, called Plastic Man. That was a superhero comic book movie. Very early on, I was there with Steven when he was filming Jurassic Park. We got to watch all of the CGI.
Wow, what a great experience.
And nobody had ever seen stuff like that before. So that was fun. It was fun being there. I got to go to ILM and do some tests as Plastic Man. But yeah, over the years, I worked with him on Sequest. We did that series. Terra Nova came up. So yeah, it's been a good friendship and relationship with Steven.
So what part of directing brings you, do you think, the greatest amount of joy? And do you prefer directing over producing? I think you said that. or are they just naturally intertwined for you?
Directing more. I mean, directing is more creative. I think I love being able to read a script and visualize it. I think I think that's where my talent was early on that I didn't know. I can I can read something, close my eyes, and I can see it moving in motion and color in my head. At least I can now after years of directing. It's kind of like, actors can memorize lines. I can't
Uh-huh.
memorize anything, but I can tell you what take, what shot, and what moment where you can find that piece of film. I have all that in my memory. So it's a useless talent in the real world, but
It
It works
serves you.
very well for directing.
Serves you well.
it served me
Exactly.
directing. But yeah, I like the directing part better. It's very creative, very visual. Um, I like being able to design and tell story with pictures along with
Mhm.
performances. Something that Zemeckis and Spielberg do really well. You feel like you're part of the film. It's very visceral
Mhm.
watching their film. Yeah.
So when you're shooting a film, obviously you've done your homework, working with the script for months, even years sometimes. So do you feel that the script for you is a starting point, and once you start shooting, do you feel that you need to work through every possibility, or do you take the approach of doing an outline? What's your typical process?
What's different project to project? It depends on what the producers of the project want, right? But a lot of times, if early in my career, I was able to get in on shows early on, like the second or third episode, when they were still trying to figure out what the show was and what it was going to look like. So I was able to sort of define some shows and get a good reputation, a visual reputation early on.
So, Brian, do you think that being a great director, you would have to be like a tiny bit obsessive? The attention to the detail. Do you think that that's part of your DNA as a filmmaker? Just a little bit, being very methodical and meticulous about things.
Yeah, I agree. You really do as a director, and you really need to know how the film goes together to be efficient with your time. So if you know how film goes together, you can be meticulous about your shots, about your pieces of film that you need, but only the pieces that you really need. There's some directors that aren't really familiar with the editing part, and they just shoot everything and then figure it out later, which costs a lot of time and money and aggravation on the
Right.
set.
Yeah, I
So
was just gonna say, to have that, to start with the editor's mind, like you did, really makes a big difference, once you get to that point as a director, you
You
know.
must be very good at doing puzzles.
I don't know about that, but yeah, I think a good director really has to be a good filmmaker. Anyways, has to be a good editor. You have to know.
Mhm.
And like I said, early in my career, when I was in the insert department, we really learned how film works together and how it doesn't.
Yeah.
You see all the mistakes that were made, and we're going out fixing mistakes. So I mean, film, it goes together, and coordinating shots that flow together. The whole design of the whole movie is what I love to do.
So after years in LA, what originally inspired the move to Hawaii, and what does this chapter represent in your creative life now?
Well, I was a TV director, just working around the world basically, and then got a job in Hawaii on Hawaii 5-0. And that one directing job turned into a producing job and directing for 8 years on that show, and then another 2 or 3 years on Magnum P.I. But coming to Hawaii was life changing.
Mm.
Just living here, the people, the air, it's just refreshing and clean. The industry is fairly small here, and the island's fairly small, so was able to sort of get into the legislation here and trying to help pass some bills to help better the Hawaii film industry here right now.
Hawaii is very magical, and when you step off the plane for the first time, and climb down the stairs, and that the air that hits you is so fragrant and so beautiful. It's just like everything just falls away, all the stress from your body. That's a really good fit for you, I would think. At any rate, you've been very busy. I mean, you acquired Sight and Sound Productions and Island Sound Studios. What is the vision behind those investments? Is in growing, you just talked about that, growing the Hawaiian film and music industry. Do you feel like that is going to be a core part of your legacy?
Well, like I said, it's a small island. There was a production company here that had been here for a while, and the owner was retiring just before COVID. And it was a production company that had equipment, cameras, lighting, trucks, has everything. So I felt that if I could take over that company, I could turn it in. It was more of a rental house, and I wanted to turn it into more of a production house where we could make local commercials, local movies, help the local talent get work here. So I did. I got that, and we've made some movies and commercials. We've been in business. We're keeping that business going, anyways. It's been around for a while. Called Sight and Sound Productions. And then there was a music studio here called Island Sound Studios that has been here since 2000. And it's world. It's what's behind me here. It's a world class recording studio. It's had John Legend, Beyonce, Jay-Z, Eminem. The whole list of artists have been here and made recorded platinum albums here. And it was a little bit run down and kind of going out of business. So, and it's the only thing on the island that like this. There's no other really real music studio on the island. So we took over the lease and fixed it up. My brother and I, who's a recording engineer, and we've had it for about 2 years now. And we've been recording all the ADR for Hawaiian movies and music. And we just opened the lobby as a lounge, sort of a nightclub where we get local artists that get to play in front of local people buying tickets. Trying to help keep the creative community going here.
So the venues like the Kai and the Velvet Monkey, those are the venues.
Yeah, it's called the Lounge and the Velvet Monkey. The Lounge is downstairs. It's a venue it's kind of like the Blue Note. We hold about 50 people and do 2 shows a night. And upstairs, the Velvet Monkey is a speakeasy. That's holds about 20.
Wow!
How
That's
wonderful!
Awesome.
It has its own bar, and yeah, we just try to utilize the space here. It's a pretty big recording studio. It's about 10,000 square feet on the ocean here in Hawaii, with the boat dock, and we just tried to keep it relevant, keep it alive.
Well, it's awesome because obviously you had mentioned, going back that before you found your way in film and TV, music was the passion. And so throughout your career, how involved would you say that you were in music supervision?
Well, in feature films, the director is, in charge of everything all the way until you see it in the theater. In television, a little bit less so. But yeah, when this came up, it was like a bell rang in my head. I was like, okay, this makes sense. Get back in. And my brother had been recording engineer for a long time, so it made sense that he could come out here and help fix all the broken equipment, and he knows everything about it.
Well, it's wonderful with your music venues as well. I'm sure there's a terrific buzz in regards to having such a great place with great artists that that come together.
Yeah, but there's not much in Hawaii. I mean, back in the 60s and 70s, there were a lot of lounges in Waikiki where you can go see Don Ho, and they don't really exist anymore. We have the Blue Note here, which is the only other venue that sells tickets for performances. So, we're trying to help grow creativity on the island. Yeah.
Well, and we were just discussing that you're actively advocating a new film incentive for the laws in Hawaii, and I think you shared a little bit. Can you go more into depth in terms of what the work looks like and why it matters to you, why it so deeply matters to you?
Well, Hawaii has a great film community. All the local technicians and crew are amazing. It's nothing I've ever experienced anywhere else filming. It's really like family here. I think it's because of the Hawaiian culture. So our crews are really like family, and we only have like 3 crews here, so it's very tight and very intimate. But yeah, we've been working with legislation to try to raise the tax incentive to be more competitive with other states. And some of the other things that's been going on here with the tax office that needs to be straightened out, but we're working on it. Hawaii is still a great place to film. We have great tax incentives. We got great locations. We got great crews.
It's absolutely paradise. And if I were given the choice to shoot in a studio in Los Angeles or go to Hawaii and shoot on location in Hawaii in a beautiful studio with a dock right outside, taking my boat up to the dock to get to work. What a wonderful opportunity and just a great thing to do. Inspiring.
As you're building and at least trying to help build this infrastructure, what does that look like to you? Does that look like more sound stages, more on location? What does it look like to you in terms of what you would hope?
Well, yeah, we've been talking about building a real studio here, a big one, but it takes somebody to invest money in Hawaii. And that will take some cleaning up with the legislation and the tax office to make that happen, I think, to be competitive. We need to be competitive with the rest of the world.
Do you feel after your meeting today that you got a tiny bit closer to that? Were you able to to gather information that might help you move in the direction that would resolve that?
Yeah, everything we do is one step closer to hopefully achieving the goal. It's basically just letting them know we're here. We're a lot. We bring we almost bring $1 billion to the economy here every year, and they just still don't understand the value in that. They see most businesses will come in and make a product and hire some people, and that's it. They don't really affect the entire island like a film company does. We come in and we buy food and lumber and create jobs, donuts and all kinds of stuff. Everything. Everybody's touched by by the film community, and that they still don't understand how it improves everything. It's not just making shoes.
Over the last decade, how have your priorities shifted? Are you thinking more about contribution than achievement these days?
Yeah, definitely have been focused on giving back. I was very blessed in my career all the way through, being in the right place at the right time and being able to do the job. So I've had in my Sight and Sound, we've had classes for production assistants, which is where I said I started. The need here and
That's
every
wonderful.
for production assistants. That's really the ground up. Once you get on a film set, I tell all the production assistants kind of look at all the different jobs and figure out where you want to head, because you're not going to be a production assistant. It's not a lifetime goal job. It's just the entry position. So we've had classes explaining to new people that have never been on a set what to expect when they get there and how to make the best of it. I've also been giving acting classes at my company, local acting classes, to help keep stimulating that. And it's everything we're trying everything.
So where you're at now in your career, is there still things on your bucket list, either projects, actors you want to work with? Where are you at with that these days?
I'm not sure. I'm in Hawaii. I'm getting older, so I might be just slowing down a little bit and just focusing on helping other people the best we can here.
Well, you've been going hard and fast for a very long time. I mean, you have an incredibly impressive resume of the body of work that you've done. So I can understand. And when you're in Hawaii, it's really nice to slow down. Nice and easy. Nice and easy.
Hollywood and LA, where it's all about getting the next job. And here, fortunately, being 10 years on a show was made me very stable. I didn't have to travel anymore. I got to be in one place. Normally it's you as you know, Signy, you're flying every 3 weeks. You're flying someplace new, something else, and
living out of a suitcase.
Never home. Yeah, it's like a rock star life. You're living out of a suitcase, hotel to hotel, which isn't a bad life if you like traveling. But I think at this point, I like to just stay in one place for a little while.
I wanted to ask you. You built 2 homes in Hawaii, correct?
I built a house in Kaneohe, which I'll never do again. It's a long, arduous process with a lot of hidden costs, but it's over. I love it. That's where you'll find me.
Are you in that home now?
Yeah.
It's absolutely breathtaking. I mean, I would want to retire and never leave my home. It's just absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, I'm on the path.
And finally, go ahead.
I'm on that path. Retiring.
You're doing it. Yeah. So if there was one piece of wisdom that you could offer to someone listening today, maybe someone who's unsure about their path, what would you tell them?
Oh, that's a hard one to answer because everybody's path is different. I guess again, just follow your heart. And I recommend doing it early. I see a lot of kids now that haven't figured out what they want. They're almost 30. I think you really gotta focus when you're young. A lot of kids come out of high school and they have no focus, but really that's the time to find something and figure it out and get in it early. Otherwise, by the time you're 30, time starts slipping by quicker and quicker and quicker. So figure out what it is you like and gravitate towards and go do it.
Right. And if you're passionate about what you do, you'll never work a single day in your life. So
I'll turn it over to Signy with the significant 7.
If you had to choose one word that holds the most significance in your life, whether it defines you, guides you, or challenges you, what word would that be and why?
Trust. Yeah, I think trust gets you a long way in life. If you can't trust people that are around you, you're working with, you have to have trust. And I think that you trust in what you do, trust in what everybody does. If you don't have trust, things start falling apart.
I agree with that. What is the most significant piece of advice you've ever received?
Here's one I'll never forget. So when you're making television, you have a screen that's this big that you're filming for. So you always want to fill that screen because it's only this big. But when you do a movie, you got a 40-foot screen in front of you. You don't want to do shots that big anymore because it's going to hit the audience in the face. And the piece of advice that Spielberg gave me when I was sitting in his office and he handed me the script, so I'm going to make this movie. He says, now the only difference between TV and movies is when you're making a movie and you're sitting in your director's chair and you're watching your monitor, in front of you, you got to place the back of some heads right in front of you, and then you can judge the size of the person on the frame compared to the back of the heads, and you can judge how close you should be or how close you shouldn't be. I said that's the first step. I was like, okay, that makes sense, and it's true.
When you were transitioning, were you nervous, Bryan?
I wasn't, because I think at that point I was already confident in my skill to be able to words off a page and craft them into film. So I was pretty confident at that point.
And what is the most significant risk you've ever taken?
Probably the sound studio.
I was going to say where he's sitting right now.
Right.
Probably the most significant risk. Yeah, it was a lot of money to fix it and save it, but we'll see. We'll see if it works.
Okay. And what is the most significant life lesson you feel that you've ever learned?
Don't sit on your laurels or take things for granted or forget that there's always evil out there that will step in your way at every second. Just gotta be prepared for the bad out in the world.
What significant moment in your life changed how you see the world?
Probably 9/11. It's the first time I felt that we were vulnerable. Yeah.
The same way. What significant relationship has shaped you the most?
I think the relationship with my father and my mother shaped me the most. They were both there to help me, growing up at different times in different ways. And I think without that, support and being, exposed to many different things, it could have been different.
And what is the most significant truth you've come to understand about yourself?
That I'm not always right. Even when you want to be right, or when you want to save something, it's maybe not always the best thing to do.
There's a saying that says, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? And I like that.
They don't always go together.
Exactly.
Yep.
It takes maturity to get to that point, because who wants to be wrong? We all want to be right. So a lot of maturity.
Well, Bryan, a lot of your work has resonated and made a lot of people happy. And I want to just thank you for taking the time to let us a little bit into your world, and especially the journey that you've been on and that you're currently on. And I really appreciate you stopping by The Significance.
Yeah, thank you, guys.
Thank you, Bryan, so much. And what struck me is here you are saying you're moving towards retirement, but you've taken on all these incredible projects, which I think are wonderful, because there's that internal fulfillment of giving back, which is really wonderful, giving back to the Hawaiian community. So I thank you for your time. I know you're a very, very busy man, and I hope everything goes well with getting that bill passed, and keep you in my thoughts for certain.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much, sweetheart. Appreciate it.
All right. Aloha.
Aloha.
Aloha.